And before we begin, let me have the pleasure of introducing our guest of honor and head of marketing for SKODA India, that is Tarun Jha. After completing his MBA from Allahabad University in 1998, he had two interesting stints with the creative side. First being account executive at Mudra Communications, and second one is with O&M as account supervisor. Very, very great beginning and very interesting beginning, in fact, for a marketing gentleman. And next, he was a senior marketing manager at Videocon Group between August 2003 to August 2005. And just before he joined SKODA Group, in fact, he has long stint in SKODA, right from 2008 onwards. And just before he joined SKODA in 2008, he was the senior manager marketing services at Mahindra Mahindra. And he joined this company or the group in 2008 as DJ Marketing SKODA India, where he was serving between July 2008 to February 2012. And I'm sure because of his illustrious performance, he has got this international posting in Prague, and that is international marketing consultant SKODA Auto in Prague between March 2012 and February 2015. And since March 2015, he has been the head of marketing for SKODA Auto. And I'm sure some of you must be owning or must be riding this wonderful product. And it's just a beauty to watch on those streets. And if you look at I'm sure most of you must have visited his LinkedIn profile and looked at the kind of work that he has been doing. And most interestingly, the recent post that I've seen is the kind of work that has happened at SKODA for 2021, and where it has seen, despite the pandemic and things like that, it has got year-on-year growth of 130%. And most interestingly, all of this 130%, 60% of the contribution has come from one of the new products or the latest products called Kushar. And also 60% growth in the city coverage with 175 touch points. It's an amazing story. And then also most other thing is that while they're improving the quality and the touch points of the customer experience, at the same time, at an organization level, they could also achieve something very interesting, that is 21% lower overall maintenance cost. I mean, that is something that speaks volumes about the kind of product development, the kind of quality improvement that have been made into this product. And in fact, he was just telling me that he just came back from Goa after having the product launch for Slavia, one of its new products from the stable of SKODA. So he's going to share with us the customer experiences of SKODA in India. I'm sure those of you who are running marketing streams and those of you are aspiring to be, I think you will have amazing lessons and also amazing insights. Very, very insightful. They don't come so naturally, but only when you put all these moving parts together, this kind of things are possible. And we don't have a better person than Tarun Jha himself to share with us what kind of experience initiatives that he and his team have taken, which have actually resulted in such a stupendous performance, like I was just mentioning some time back. So just before we invite Tarun Jha and hand over the platform to him, may I request all the participants to put their questions in the Q&A box as the lecture progresses, so that we can live curate the question and then relay them to Tarun, so that we can have his responses towards the end of this lecture. Thank you so much, and over to you, Tarun.
Thank you so much, Professor, for the extremely kind introduction. And apologies to everyone. I'm dressed up very colorfully, as Professor himself had acknowledged. That's because I've just landed back from Goa, where we are doing the press drives for the new SKODA Slavia, our latest car, which we're going to announce the prices next week. The car is already at the dealerships now. And it's a very long and interesting journey that SKODA Auto has had in this country, 21 years, and I have been part of 14 out of those 21 years. So there is a strong sense of ownership that I have and a strong sense of belonging that I have on the brand. There have been a lot of learnings over the years. We have seen good times, bad times, negative growth, very positive growth. So I have been part of that journey. So whatever I'm going to share with you is not, let's say, a master class. It's basically a practitioner's experience on what we can do, because at the end of it, any business that we are in, customer is king. Customer is what the business revolves around, any product or service that we may have. So here is a little summary of my experience with the brand and what we've done. And because of which, like Professor himself said, we have seen some very good results. Last year, we grew by 130%. Our network has more than doubled in 1.5 years. So, Professor, ever since you saw that infographic last, now today we are already touching about 190 touch points across the country, which is one of the most important, let's say, actions or initiatives for improving our customer experience. Because, when you buy a car, you can't buy a car in your town and go 200 kilometers for getting it serviced, which was happening earlier. Now our footprint has expanded across the country, where we can bring both sales and service for the customers at their doorstep as close as we can possibly. Now, SKODA Auto is a 127-year-old company. It's the third oldest car brand in the world, by the way. The only other two brands which precede SKODA Auto are Mercedes-Benz from Germany and Peugeot from France. Now, we entered India in the year 2001, although our cars were being sold here even before independence of India, that is in the 1930s and 40s, through a distributor. So we had a long history. In fact, so much so that in the 30s, there was a very enthusiastic and adventurous Czech gentleman who drove from Prague all the way to Calcutta by road. So Skoda has been in this country for a long time, but in the current avatar, we've been here since 2001. And as you know, by virtue of our product offerings, our customers have positioned us as a premium brand in India, whereas in Europe, Skoda has always been a practical value for money brand. Possibly India is the only country where we are positioned as a premium brand. And there's a good reason for it also. Now, for brand Skoda, the turning point or the inflection point came about a decade ago, and I'm talking globally. There was realization that a brand like Skoda is no longer a Eurocentric small player, but a global challenger brand, because a decade ago, we already had a footprint which spanned across more than 100 countries, from the Americas to Australia and New Zealand. Skoda was being sold in more than 100 countries. And thus, about a decade ago, began our journey of brand transformation. It was a massive exercise, as you can imagine. It affected everything, from product offerings to business processes to brand positioning. And last but not least was customer experience, which came into strong focus about a decade ago. Now, by definition, in the automotive industry, customer experience is a kind of a complex process, because the customer experience or ownership experience, as we call it, it extends for years and sometimes for decades and generations. Your association with the brand or a product for that matter in automotive. You also have to factor in the rather large ticket size of our products. For most people, a car is the second most expensive thing they will buy. The most expensive being a house in most cases. So you have to keep that in mind also. Another important factor to consider in the automotive world is that our business suffers from a massive trust deficit in most parts of the world. Automotive business, the customers always take the automotive or car business with a pinch of salt. There is always a bit of distrust. There's always a bit of a mismatch between the customer expectations and delivery. Thus, our job becomes even more crucial and critical, not only for survival and growth of the business, but for, just being around and servicing our customers and getting them back. So this brings me back to our business in India and the various initiatives that we have taken to enhance our customer experience in India specifically. And please allow me to start at the product level itself. That's the reason for our existence and the most visible and tangible part of our customer experience. Our product is, and like I mentioned, our product experience lasts years, decades, and generations. Now, our brand philosophy says that everything that we do, we will always put the customer first. Now, this could be lip service because practically every company or every brand I know claims to put the customer first. So do we. But we take it seriously. And this statement is brought to life in the product itself. As we design our cars not to dazzle our customers with the use of technology and gizmos, but design cars that make their lives easier so that they can live smarter. There's this whole global movement of living smart. So our products should feed into that, expectation of the client. Give the client enough happiness, enough practicality, and enough, let's say, utility so that they can lead better and richer lives. Now, I'll just give you a small example of what we mean by that. When we say we design our products with great care, keeping the customer at the center of it. Now, every time we design a car, there's extensive testing happening over years, and which is why the product life cycle of, development life cycle of a product in automotive runs over years. When we design our cars, we test them not only for safety, which is a norm in most countries, we also test them for utility for the passengers and not only the drivers. We test our cars with children, with senior members of the family, and dogs. So every time we design a car, we make dogs sit inside the car, especially the boot of the car, because in Europe, almost every family has a dog, a pet. And for the dog to be comfortable inside the car is as important as it is for children to be comfortable inside the car. So we actually use dogs for testing the interiors of our car. Now, if you look at the typical customer journey of a car buyer, it can be broadly divided into three phases. The pre-purchase phase, the purchase phase, and the post-purchase phase. I will now illustrate and enumerate the various initiatives that we have taken along the way on our journey. One of the things that we did way back in 2016 was that we designed an ownership app for our customers. And those are the early days when apps, practically every business was moving on apps. So it was also a fad that even businesses which had nothing to do, with applications online or on the mobile phone started having apps. But for us, it was important. We had an ownership app so that there could be a single window interface with the brand and the customers, and they could have an access to a host of services literally at their fingertips. Now, this app is personalized as you can only log in using your unique car identification number called the VIN number. Now, this app has your entire service history record, dealer locations. It has all the important documents related to your ownership. You can book a service. There's a toll-free number connection to our customer care. Okay, there is an SOS number also which you can call. So the intent here was to afford full transparency and control to our customers. And we were the first SKODA market worldwide to have an ownership app which had a back-end integration with our dealer management system, which means that the customer could actually access their documents on the app. And I can happily say today that more than half of my active customers have downloaded the app and are using the app. It's called the My SKODA app. Another initiative which we took about 5 years ago was a program that we ran called the Peace of Mind program. Now, this was caused simply because of the perception that a lot of customers carried regarding SKODA. And this program was a mix of new processes as well as usage of technology and tools to give a world-class hassle-free ownership experience to our customers. In fact, as of today, we have a dedicated website which illustrates all the components of this promise called Peace of Mind Promise. Now, why was it important? Because, like I mentioned earlier, our business suffers from trust deficit. And we as a brand, SKODA, possibly had a little more of this problem than certain other brands in the country. We had some legacy issues. The first stuff we did was honestly admitted that there were issues, admitted them to the clients also, and made very honest and transparent and visible steps to solve these issues and solve these perception problems. So that is why this umbrella program was called Peace of Mind, because the ultimate promise then was that if you buy a Skoda, peace of mind comes standard with it. Okay. Now, some of the key initiatives that we took with this program was we launched service maintenance packages. Now, we came up with a multiple array of these packages for our customers. Now, the main reason why we did this was because the perception, like I mentioned, the most of the customers or prospects had in their mind was buying a Skoda is a very expensive proposition. And not buying, it's actually the owning of Skoda over years, which did not make sense to them. For instance, our cars, and like I mentioned, that our cars got positioned as premium offerings because of the technology being used, the quality that went in and all that. Good cars came at a certain premium. So even if customers could gather the courage to buy a slightly expensive Skoda, it is the cost of ownership which scared them, because, and part of it was truth, and a whole lot of it was actually based on hearsay, because somebody 10 years ago may have had some issues. And as we know, and as we marketeers admit, that word of mouth is possibly the biggest medium in this country. One negative statement you might hear against the brand will all put you off the brand forever. And this is what happened, that negative word of mouth scared prospects away from the brand. They believed that even if they could buy a car, owning it was a hassle. So we came out with these packages, 3-year, 4-year packages, that the customer could buy at the time of buying the car and then be relaxed about the service costs. It was very important for us to demystify it. And this was a very upfront and transparent package. You knew what you were paying at the beginning of 4 years. You knew exactly what kind of services you were getting. And this was for the periodic maintenance that you have. For other car makers, it's at a duration of 6 months. But for brands like us, it is at a duration of 12 months. So you knew exactly over the next 4 years what would be your cost of service maintenance. And this really helped in removing the obstacle in the minds of a lot of our undecided prospects and fence sitters who were afraid of buying a Skoda. Then another thing that we worked on was warranty. Now, till a few years ago, it was standard in India to offer a 2-year warranty with a new car. That if anything happened to the car in the first 2 years of your ownership, the brand would support you. But after 2 years, you were left on your own by and large. But that was another reason which was keeping our customers away from us. And we, because we had so much of faith and trust in our own products, we started offering a 4-year standard warranty on our car. We were one of the first in the industry to offer that. And without charging the customers, by the way, 4-year standard warranty, which means that once you bought a Skoda for 4 years, you had complete peace of mind. You did not have to bother about maintenance of your cars, something that scared you earlier. Now, as of today, we have extended warranty packages of up to 6 years. If the customers want to extend it beyond the 4th year, they can buy a 5th and 6th year warranty. So basically, they're buying peace of mind for the 5th and 6th year. And we know on an average in India, people own a car from 5 to 7 years. So 4 years, we'll take care of completely. Beyond that, if you want, you could buy a package at a small cost. Now, again, that helps in improving customer experience, because the customer is not left in a lurch at the time of buying the product. Another thing which improves this peace of mind of customers and is great for ownership is the roadside assistance packages. Now, we know standard, most companies were offering 2 years Then they were increased by some companies to 3 years, 5 years. As of today, we offer 9-year RSA packages, roadside assistance. What does it mean? If you are stuck with any issue with your car across the country, in any part of the country, you are backed up by a 24/7 roadside assistance program, which means we will come to your rescue. So now a 9-year RSA package also, enhances your customer experience, gives the customer that peace of mind. In a majority of cases, I'm saying that the customers don't use the RSA package and don't need to use the roadside assistance because such kind of breakdowns are few and far between. But we still stand behind our customers saying, if there's any reason why you get stuck, we are with you. Another thing that we did, another initiative, and this is a very important initiative because this hits at the root of a lot of perception that our customers carry and also a lot of brand truth from the past. Now, you know that in the initial years, we sold our cars which were made in Europe. Almost 97-98% of the parts came from Europe, which means the cars, on one hand, were extremely good quality and premium, but on the other hand, it meant that the cars were expensive and the parts were expensive. It's very, very simple. You import your parts from Europe, the parts become more expensive because they attract higher duties on it. What we did, and what we have been doing consciously over the last few years, is that we are reducing the prices of spare parts and ultimately, ensuring that our cars, the new ones, like Professor mentioned, the new Kushak, which was launched last year, and the new Slavia, which is being launched right now, it is 95% localized, which in simple terms means that we are sourcing the parts from vendors in India. And the funny thing is, or the good thing is, that most of the vendors are the same vendors we use in Europe. You understand, in automotive, the large vendors are present in India. So you have a Siemens in India, you have a Bosch in India, you have Lear Seats in India. Most of these vendors who supply to us in Europe are also in India and they have large setups in India. And if we source from them, obviously the cost of parts is cheaper. There is lesser amount of money to be spent on logistics, and you can attain the same European quality at an Indian price. And that is what we have managed to do. And like Professor said, we have reduced our cost of ownership and cost of parts by a good 20-21% across our cars, which automatically translates into a better cost of ownership and a better customer experience. Another initiative. Again, I'm coming from what the customers believed about us and what we had to do to change that perception. If you would have spoken to a SKODA customer a few years ago, let's say 5 years ago, a lot of them would have said that my car goes for service and the cost of service is very high. Now, it was partly true because, cost of service is high because spare parts are more expensive, but also because a SKODA is serviced once in a year compared to a whole lot of other cars, Japanese and Korean cars, for instance, which went for service every 6 months. So if you pay 7,500 rupees every 6 months, it adds up to 15. And if I charge 15,000 rupees for your first service, actually I am not more expensive. It's just that you are paying a lump sum 15,000 at one go. But that how it was perceived was that you can get another car service in 7,500 rupees, whereas SKODA charges you 15 for the same job. Now, so you see, that was a perception in the minds of people. So what we did was to kill that perception and also make it very transparent for the prospects, is we had a service cost calculator on our website. What does it mean? You go there, you select the model, you select the fuel type, that's it's a petrol or a diesel, select the variant, select the year or make, And the service cost calculator throws up the cost of service over the ownership cycle of 1, 2, 3, 4 years. You can actually select and see actually what is your serving going to cost you. Now, this was important also as a a servicing tool or as a sales tool. Is the prospects who came to our showroom with this particular doubt in mind that what happens to my service? I've heard you guys are very expensive. Very clearly, we had trained our sales consultants that tell them to go to the website, check out the service cost calculator, which transparently tells you what you're going to pay over the next few years for your car service. That helped a lot of customers understand that we were being transparent about our offerings, especially the cost of ownership. Now, we are doing the Slavia drives yesterday, and we have presented, and we are presenting this, to all the journalists who are coming there. The cost of ownership of the Slavia is as low as 46 paisa per kilometer, which is best in segment, which means my customer will get the best ownership experience in the segment of Slavias, which also means that SKODA is being transparent and not cheating the customers, nor our dealers, nor the fact that you are the most expensive car to own and maintain in the segment. That also helps, in getting new customers into the fold, and also, telling the old customers that you have not made the wrong choice, you're with the right brand. Another thing that we did for enhancing our customer experience a few years ago, and this was an industry first tool that we did, a lot of brands started on having chatbots. A few years ago, chatbots were the in thing and everybody wanted to do. What we did was we had an industry first artificial intelligence enabled chatbot. It's called Jesse. This came about because a lot of our customers, who I also met personally, were uncomfortable talking with call centers. They said, see, for a small, FAQs, we don't need to call, talk to your call center. Plus, I work very hard all day. I don't have time during daytime. I can't be calling up your call center on a weekend. I don't want anybody to talk to me at night. And of course, my call center does not run 24/7. So is there any way I can get all information? So we launched the chatbot, which is an AI-enabled chatbot. That chatbot can answer most of the frequently asked questions from our customers and prospects. And because it is, backed up by machine learning, the more questions that are asked, the more intelligent it becomes with time. And basic information like product information, brochures, videos, all of those services or information can be given by the chatbot. And as of today, by the way, the chatbot can also connect you to a live customer service representative if you want to talk to somebody. And as of today, we have extended this chatbot from our website to also WhatsApp chat as well as Facebook, which means our customers do not need to call up our call center. They can have most of the information related to the brand and the products through an app, through a chat. Then another important tool which became important with time, and you all know, connectivity is a big topic. And a lot of our customers, and this is a good sign in India that automotive customers are becoming more and more knowledgeable about products with passing time. And this is a very clear indication of the evolution of automotive customers in India, that customers come to my showroom knowing practically everything about the car. So connectivity became an important topic. Customers wanted to know, and as technology advances, they became more and more tech savvy and are more and more tech savvy and connected. And it was logical that we launched our connectivity app, connectivity solutions. And from basic car usage data to additional security features, our app tries to provide the best customer experience to our customers. Now, like again, I'll mention things which are practical and usable and necessary, not things just to impress the customer at the time of sale and then they are not used ever. So what we do as a brand philosophy is give our customers solutions which are actually usable. Now in 2020, I'm coming to the next initiative that we took in early 2020. When COVID pandemic hit us, the customers were obviously very uncomfortable stepping out. Okay. Again, most of the state governments restricted the number of people who could go out and work in showrooms. But the customers were still willing to buy cars. Obviously, the demand went down. Actually, April 2020 was possibly the first time in 100 years where the industry sold zero cars. Zero means zero cars were retailed in April 2020. I think it's a 100-year-old record. It's never happened like that. But it was true, the country was under lockdown. And when things started opening up in May, customers were uncomfortable going to showrooms. Showroom staff was either not allowed or was uncomfortable. But customers still wanted to know about the cars. Now, you can deliver as much information as you can through text and videos and stuff. But there is a certain, benefit of talking to a consultant, asking questions to a consultant. That human touch is a very important and critical aspect of buying a car. So what we did was, we were one of the first brands in this country which offered a contactless virtual demo for all our cars. There was a live consultant on the other side of a video chat. Our customers could book a session with them. The sales consultant would take them around the car, exteriors, interiors, features, do a full virtual demo, a replica of what happens in the showroom. And the customer could ask a question because it was a live chat session. And this, you will have to believe me, has helped me sell hundreds of cars during the lockdown period when customers did not want to come to the showrooms. So once the demo was done and the customer was happy and understood the product, the next stage was an actual test drive. What we also did was we did a remote test drive, in the sense the customer did not have to come to the showroom. The showroom went to the customer. We delivered completely sanitized cars to the customer's doorstep, cleaned up the car in front of the customers, allowed them to take a test drive. If they were comfortable, the consultant would sit next to them. Otherwise, they could drive it by themselves. And if they're happy, they could purchase the car. And that brings me to the next tool that we launched, was the online car booking tool. Now, what started as an experiment in 2020, we tried out this tool for the Octavia RS, which was a limited edition, limited numbers of cars which we brought to India. We brought in these cars and we said, okay, just for greater transparency and equal chance to all our customers across the country, we will take only online car bookings. So what happens is, the genuine customers who are interested in buying the RS would go online, pay a small amount and block their car of the color of their choice to be picked up at a dealer of their choice. So we started that. We sold our entire quota of Octavia RS online. So once the customer had brought his car, his choice of car, my dealers got in touch with them and the customer made full payment at the dealership and took the delivery of the car from the dealership. So that aspect of business would exist of, signing your documents and your contract at the dealership and picking up the car at the dealership. Although certain brands are moving away to completely virtual sales, but that's a different topic. So from virtual demo to online car booking, it was a very easy transition for us. And it was one of the best things we have done for our own customers, because our customers actually called up us and thanked us saying, you know what, you saved 2 precious trips of ours to the dealership in the pandemic time, because my old parents and my children, I do not want them to take, I don't want to take them out, so we could get a demo and we could book our cars sitting at home. So thank you so much as a brand. Now that is one of the best compliments you can get from a customer, because all we did was ease their process of buying a car. And the next thing that we did was that, or the thing which is running concurrently with all these new things, again, to improve and enhance the whole customer experience, is a digitally enabled dealership. Now that has been happening over years. Customers who are extremely digitally savvy come to our showrooms to buy cars which are extremely high-tech modern products. But the irony of it all is that the showrooms look and feel very 20th century. Now we are trying to change that whole experience. Currently, we are digitalizing our entire network across the country to make this whole car buying journey and process tech-enabled, easy, hassle-free, and informative at the same time. So we are having video walls, touch panels, touch tables with all kinds of informations and videos and text and all, everything at the customer's fingertips. Because no matter how much I train my sales consultants, it is the truth that no one can remember more than 150 features of a particular model. Nobody can. And this then extends to variants, and it extends to competitor cars. So you can imagine how many data points would a human being remember when he's trying to sell a car to a customer. But if you have digitally enabled tools at your dealership, this whole process becomes very informative, intelligent, intuitive, and enriching for the customers themselves also, because the customers can touch and feel and play and know exactly and compare the product to other products also. And now another latest tool that we've done is online service booking. Now, earlier we had the service booking facility available on the My SKODA ownership app that you could actually book your service using your app. Now we have extended the service to our website also, so that the customer does not have the hassle of calling up either the dealership or the call center and then wait for a booking and then wait for a confirmation. Why waste the customer's time? Why not just allow the customer to use online tools to book the car at one go? So these are a few of the initiatives which I talked about in the last 40 minutes or so that we have taken over the years. Now, I'm not saying all of them are exclusive to SKODA. Truth be told, our industry moves very quickly, and whatever I do today will be replicated in the next 3 or 4 weeks by other manufacturers for a good reason. The best ideas come free. And what happens is when you have a great idea that one automotive manufacturer has installed or tried out, we can learn from that and do that, so that the end beneficiary for all these things that we do is ultimately the customer. And the customer experience, whether he's at the prospecting stage or in the process of buying or a post-purchase, the cycle, which in our case runs 2 years, our intent is to give the best experience. Because what we realized a few years ago, that we are not in the business of selling products on metal. We are in the business of selling experiences, because buying a car is an experience, owning a car is an experience, and that is when the change happened in automotive industry. So from selling a commodity or a piece of metal a few years ago, now most automotive companies are actually selling an experience, because ultimately a car is a dream for most of us. And what we're doing is we're helping our customers realize a childhood dream possibly, or a lifelong dream, or a dream car that they're buying. So we have to be partners in that journey and make that whole experience rich and satisfying. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tarun. I think it's I think it's the biggest canvas that we could look at for almost decades there, especially in the last maybe 1 or 2 decades also. I think we have very interesting questions, and I think I'm going to have the first question from one of our participants. In fact, one of our colleagues by name Nandita, and her question is there any SKODA's customer experience that is actually inspired by any of one of your competitors?
I'm sorry. Can you please repeat that?
is there any SKODA's customer experience or any business practice that is actually inspired by your competitor? Because you're telling me sometime back, telling us that you also look at your competitors, and maybe not just in the automotive industry, maybe it can be something else. So is there any practice or business practice or customer experience practice that your SKODA is truly inspired with the competition, and therefore it adopted it?
Yes, we are did. So what we do is, Anita, that when we are positioned as a premium brand, the thing that we always did was see what our luxury competitors are actually doing in the showrooms in terms of their selling practices and the tools that they use. So this whole, and we are inspired by our own, cousins in the house. It's Audi. Now, Audi was the first brand in the Volkswagen Group in India to start digitalization process of their dealerships. And we immediately got inspired by them and said, if Audi can do it, SKODA can possibly do it better. So we got inspired by Audi in-house and then started our own digitalization process.
Thank you so much. And this is a question from Nirja Navani, and her question is, do you see car buying as end-to-end online experience in the coming years? Will it impact the current business model of the automotive industry? Thank you, Nirja.
That's a very important, pertinent, and intelligent question. See, Mercedes-Benz has already changed the game in India. Mercedes has changed the process. Now there is no stock which the dealership owns. Mercedes owns all stock. Dealerships are touch points where the customer can go, touch, feel, and try out the products. Now that is one truth, Nirja, which would not go away, because the car buying process is a very touch and feel process, And this is something you can do. You can change the transaction. You can do the transaction online completely. You cannot translate the experience of sitting inside the car online. A lot of technology companies have come to me and saying, we will organize a virtual test drive for you. And I have to tell them, my friend, there is nothing called a virtual test drive. It is a city tour that you're giving me. When I see it on the screen, it's a city tour of a fancy location. There's nothing called a virtual test drive. You have to sit inside the car, touch and feel the car, smell the car, and the car talks back to you. That aspect of the whole experience of car buying will not go away. But yes, the process that is, a very brick and mortar process right now, especially when it comes to the transaction part of it, will slowly and steadily move online. And I'm not entirely sure, Nirja, how many people are comfortable buying a car without seeing it. Unless you are 100% familiar with the product, and it is the second or the third of the similar product that you're buying. And for that, I can promise you that industry is absolutely ready. If you tell me, Nirja, tomorrow that, can SKODA sell the cars online, I can turn around technologically that whole process in 72 hours. Because we have the capability, all of us. If I can take your online car booking, which is ranging from, let's say, 11,000 rupees to 50,000 rupees, depending on the car, I can also take 40 lakh rupees from you, do all the process online, paperwork, and the dealership can deliver the car at your doorstep. It is possible. Yes. And it will happen. Sorry, coming back to your question, it will happen.
Thank you. And this is a question from Nanda Chiti, and his question is, what would be the biggest challenge going forward in the next 12 to 24 months in the automobile industry?
Okay. See, the biggest challenge that the industry is facing immediately is, not immediately actually, for the last few months, is the shortage of semiconductors. So what had happened was, now this is like the butterfly flapping its wings in the Amazon effect, that because of the lockdown, there was a massive surge in demand for semiconductors in the home entertainment, laptop and mobile business. Cars were not selling in such great numbers, so the entire global supply of semiconductors kind of shifted. And when the lockdown opened, car manufacturers realized that the semiconductors were in massive shortage, which continues to date, although things are improving. As of yesterday, I think the war between Russia and Ukraine is going to have a very strong impact on the automotive business, because like I said, our business is so interconnected and entangled across the world. Uh, you don't know what parts of your car are being sourced from maybe Ukraine, or if it is being transported from Ukraine, or because you're buying oil from Russia and the cost of oil goes up, your logistics cost goes up and your car becomes more expensive. Things will be impacted by the war for sure. So these are two aspects that we see will have an impact on the industry in the coming 24 months.
Thank you. This is a question from Balaji Naika, and his question is how to design customer satisfaction metrics to retain loyal customers for longer bandwidth, since customer priorities and expectations will change over the time, being in the modernization of digital world.
So, Balaji, see, this is something every company is chasing and chasing madly. That is your customer satisfaction. There is a customer satisfaction study which happens at a manufacturer level and at an industry level, which continues on a regular basis. What we do as a brand is that every time you have any interaction with us, either at the sales point or the service point at the workshop, we make sure that we get your feedback and not just rate us on a scale of 1 to 5 how happy you are, but if you rate us below a certain score, immediately there's a trigger for us to understand, oh, there is something which the customer is not happy about. You will get a call from our side. We will try to understand your concern, solve it for you, also make it a point that it becomes a learning for the company so that this mistake is not repeated. So if it is a certain process related issue that you may have faced, immediately it becomes a trigger point for the process to be improved. If it is a parts related, availability related, price related, quality related issue, it immediately becomes a red flag for our quality team or the procurement team or the service team to take action. And this is an ongoing daily process in each of the automotive companies that I know, and I've worked for another one also. So continuously improving this. And what has happened is that apart from the feedback that we receive from customers directly at a dealership or through our apps or through the phone call that we make, there are customers who would choose to go on social media directly rather than talking to the brand. Fortunately, unfortunately, whatever it is quick for us to pick it up, but it is also used as a tool for blackmailing brands, and that happens across industries. Unfortunately, what happens is when we follow up these calls to solve them, we realize that a majority of them are blackmailing us without owning a car. They are part of this whole mob which are out to abuse and stone you, despite the fact that they don't have any experience of owning the car. But if it's a genuine customer who owns the car, it takes us a few minutes to track back the customer, get connected to you, and immediately get our people on to solve your job. So the digital world has made it quicker for us to respond and take action.
Good. I hope that satisfies you, Balaji. Now, this is a question from Akshay. And his question is, could you please elaborate more on the brand's perception management, especially in today's social digital world? As you rightly said, loss is more impactful than gain. Thank you, Akshay.
Akshay, I think partly I've answered your question in my, the initiatives that we took. Now, customer perception, there are two parts of it which you have realized over time. One is the perception of the genuine customer, and one is the perception that is fanned by either very old customers or people who have no experience on the brand. But unfortunately, it's a reality. Now, what we realize is most perceptions are rooted in some or the other truth. And we as a brand, what we've done is we have accepted the truth, and that has to be the first step for any brand. If my customers are saying your service is expensive, we actually went into understanding which part of the service do you find expensive. Is it the parts that you find expensive? Is it the labor cost that you find expensive? So we did a complete benchmarking exercise across the industry to see where is it that we can improve that. Yeah. Or is it the fact that the dealership or service center is too far away from you? That is why you're not unhappy with my service. So what we did was heard our customers, worked on each element of it to understand what is making my customer less than happy. I'm not saying unhappy. A lot of customers are less than happy. Our task as marketers is to ensure all our customers are happy. Because like you rightly said, actually good observation, a happy customer might get you one or two additional customers. An unhappy or less than happy customer will make sure that he turns 10 of your prospects away from you. So it is a very important aspect and we work on it day in, day out. You would not realize that I am the head of marketing. My chief job is to improve customer satisfaction, not advertising, not digital marketing, okay, not technology, not product. All of it ends up being customer satisfaction, customer orientation. So that is the be all end all. For a brand of ours to have understood and realized and accepted the fact is what is showing us good results now. Because I'll go back to the first statement that I made. Everything that we do, we always keep our customers first. And that's the brand philosophy, which we utilize across all our aspects of business.
Thank you. This is a question from somebody, I think it is anonymous here, but nevertheless, a very interesting question. His question is, hi, sir, what was the business increment in percentage terms only by extended warranty? How to ensure customer feedback authenticity from dealer to OEM? As dealers are going extra mile to capture a feedback, but possibly the same might not be communicated to OEM, leading a decline in market share.
See, I'll tell you something, Mr. Anonymous or Miss Anonymous. It is very difficult to attribute the sale of a car to one or two elements. It's always a package, you know. Like I mentioned, it starts from the product itself. You have to like the product. You have to like the product has to make sense to you. And then all these things add up. These are like spices which make your dish more interesting. Okay, every little bit of it. So the extended warranty is one of my tools which I use to, you know, reduce your anxiety when you are a prospect. If I'm selling more cars only because of that, now that is putting the cart before the horse, because you won't buy the car only for the extended warranty, will you? No, you're not buying extended warranty, you're buying a car. The extended warranty is helping you decide, or if you have a doubt, or if you're sitting on the fence, it is nudging you forward. Yes, we have sold a lot of extended warranty packages because, you know, these are the same customers who love the car, who want to keep the car in an excellent condition throughout the ownership experience. Okay, so much so that they are not upset paying a small price for buying an extended warranty for 5-6, because ultimately, you know what, they are buying peace of mind, and we all do. You know, when we are buying airline tickets, we buy and you know, pay something extra and buy a travel insurance, yeah, or we buy something from Tata Chroma. You know, I recently bought something, and this person always asks you while billing, so would you like to buy extended warranty for 300 rupees? You know what? I will buy it. For most of my products, I have not used it. I will buy it because it gives me that reassurance that I will come back if there is a problem, and there'll be somebody who will listen to me. So that is what ties me to the brand Chroma, Tata Chroma, who sell electronics, because I know that I know I can catch them if something goes wrong. I know somebody's standing behind me, and that's how it works in automotive also. But to answer your question, yes, our customers have been buying a lot of extended warranty packages.
Thank you. And this is a question from Anuj Kohli, and her question is, sir, what is meant by ownership cost? What are the elements and how companies how to compare vehicle to vehicle?
Okay, now I'll tell you something, Anuj. There are various definitions of cost of ownership that various companies work on. And there is internal calculations of cost of ownership. Primarily, the cost of ownership of running a car, or the running cost as it is called, is basically the cost of fuel which is calculated basis the efficiency of what is your mileage of the car. Okay, the cost of service, your periodic service maintenance that happens, and the normal cost of spare parts, oil, and consumables over the life cycle of the product. That is how cost of ownership is calculated. So when you're buying the car, you have to do a simple maths as a customer is what am I paying the initial cost of the car? Now, when people buy a petrol versus a diesel or a diesel over a petrol, how do you calculate whether it's going to make sense for you? You see the difference in price of the petrol version versus the diesel version. See the differential could be 1.5 to 2.5 lakh rupees. Yeah. Then you know what is your average mileage in a year. You do 5,000, 10,000 kilometers a year. Then you should know how long are you going to own the car? What is your total ownership? Yeah. Let's say it's 7 years or something. You do the maths. 7 years of driving 10,000 kilometers, which is 70,000 kilometers, cost of fuel, you calculate what is the saving that you get from the cost of fuel and see whether it pays for the difference of a diesel engine over a petrol engine. That is how you calculate your cost of running. Okay. Similarly, cost of ownership is basically what is the car going to cost me to own over 4 or 5 years. And it's very simple mathematics. When you put everything together, like your 4 services, if you put together the cost and the consumables, which you can go to the service cost calculator and know, you will know how much you will spend on owning the car over a period of time.
Thank you. This is a question from Narendra Kumar Radhabaram, and his question is, SKODA is more visible in India than Volkswagen. Maybe ask the secret behind it, or is it a part of the strategy?
Sorry, I missed it. What is?
SKODA is more visible in India than Volkswagen. And maybe ask the secret behind it. Is it a part of strategy? Why SKODA is more visible than Volkswagen?
So like I mentioned initially also, it is one of the few countries in the world, practically or possibly the only country in the world where SKODA is positioned a little more premium. Because of the time of entry in the market, one of the factors is we entered the market first. We came in 2001. The other brand that you're mentioning came much later. Okay. By that time, there was already a lot of love which had developed for the brand. Okay. Globally, it's a completely different story where we are positioned marginally below our cousins. But in India, we automatically got positioned above. And I'll tell you something, there's no rocket science or strategy behind it. It is the customers who position brands, not marketeers. The customers in India positioned us above the said brands and above a whole lot of other brands also. And I will thank them and I always thank them. It is not a Tarun Jha sitting in his office who is strategizing how to position his brand above brands. I can do all of that. It's ultimately the customers who decide. And in our case, very clearly, the customers decide.
Now, this is a question from Pranjal Gupta, and his question is, hello, sir. What are the challenges, if any, you have faced or mitigated while your brand is projected as premium against in normal category in Western world? Since this is particularly important in India, which is a massive market in general, but comparatively limited for the premium category.
Okay. Now, we occupy a very strange and unique position in the market in India. So you have the luxury brands, which are the very obvious luxury brands we all talk about and know. And the first brands that come to mind when you say luxury, it's a BMW, it's an Audi, it's a Mercedes, and in small numbers now Jaguar, Land Rover, Volvo, all of them, but they do very small numbers. These 3 German giants are what defines luxury car market in India. Then you have the volume brands, starting from Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai, Datsun, Nissan, Honda, Toyota, all of Mahindra, Tatas, all of them. We are positioned somewhere in between these 2 extremes. The volume brands, which have a massive customer base, and we would love to sell as many cars as they do. Honestly, who won't? Okay. Then you have the luxury brands sitting right at the top with very small volumes. Now, for a brand like ours, which is a little below luxury, a little above volume brands, it becomes a very unique position which I have to justify with the right kind of product at the right kind of pricing, Whereas people who are moving up from volume and are buying into my brands are actually buying into luxury and premium. Reason being, our cars are not cheap. A Kodiak on road is above 40 lakh rupees. How many people in India buy cars at that price point? You know, the entire luxury car market in India is less than 1% of the total car market. That's 30,000 cars that I'm talking about. If you stretch it to brands like ours, you'll reach not more than 40,000 cars in a market which is already 3 million. So the market of luxury premium in India is about 1 to 1.2, 1.3% only. Only. For us to play in that premium segment, justify our position is a tough task, but it's a unique positioning and we aim to deliver on that positioning with all the activities from the products to the experience. And that's my job actually. That's what I get paid for, by the way.
This is an interesting question from Bhumika, and her question is, what are the persuasive factors for the dealers to enter into the business when their roles and benefits seem to have reduced, giving customers the direct touchpoint experience, buy the car, or providing them enhancing experience measures like apps and other online sources? Thank you, Bhumika.
Bhumika, good question. The role of a dealership in the automotive business is changing quite rapidly. In Europe, it has already started changing. Now, dealers will become service providers. In India, it is still the good old way. You sell a car, you make money. You sell an insurance on that, you make money. Okay. You sell spare parts and accessories, you make money. You service the car and you make money. You do your volumes, quarterly volumes, annual volumes, your targets, you make money as bonuses. That's how dealers make money in India, right? But having said that, it is still a very tough business to run and earn from it because it requires a hell lot of effort and honesty to run this business. And it is not a quick business to make money in. You could buy a property and sell it after a year and make more money than running a dealership. For most new entrants in this business, for them to break even would take years. But once established, these are the current avenues which I mentioned where dealership makes money. In the future, the whole model of dealership business will change, like you rightly said. So OEMs like us and dealer organizations, the dealer associations across the world are working on that aspect of how do we evolve the dealer business in the future. When you have electric cars, the whole dealership business will change. Okay, because you will not have spare parts to sell possibly. We'll have to find different ways of how dealers can make money and still be relevant in this whole business chain. And we are working on it. There is no ready-made solution right now. It's an evolving situation with evolving solutions. But it's a good space to watch for future.
So the question from Sanjeev Kulkarni, and his question is, how is SKODA addressing emission reduction and electrification of passenger vehicles? And also he has a thank you note for you, Tarun. He says, thank you for the fantastic session, by the way. Thank you, Sanjeev.
Thank you. So we have already launched our first electric car in Europe called the ENIAC IV. It's an SUV-shaped electric vehicle. And our chairman has already announced that we are very serious about electrification and going ahead in the future. We'll have a whole range of electric products in India. As far as the emission norms are concerned, in Europe, there is something called the CO2 norms, which you have to mandatorily declare even in your advertising. And car makers on the entire portfolio have to achieve a certain target below which the cars should have the CO2 emissions. If you don't achieve that target on your entire portfolio, you have to pay a fine for every gram that you exceed. Luckily for us, we are part of that whole, European setup, which is why we are very, very keen on reducing the CO2 emissions. And that is the reason why our new engines, which you see on the Kushaq and the Slavia, are actually smaller engines compared to the older engines, which are large in terms of displacement. We have the 1 liter and the 1.5 liter petrol engine, which produces more power compared to even larger engines of the past, more power output, but consumes lesser fuel. And making fuel efficient engines is something that we are good as a group, and we are very keen. And our customers have also accepted. that a 1 liter new modern age TSI engine is an extremely fuel efficient engine. So it goes hand in hand. And obviously, we are very keen because we are bound by the EU guidelines as well as the guidelines of the Indian government. And we cannot launch a car in India unless it fulfills all the criteria laid down by the government when it comes to fuel efficiency and emissions.
Now, this is the question from Tandeep Singh Jandu, and his question is, sir, what is the strategy behind Slavia? Sedan market seems to be dwindling with preferences going towards the SUV past 5 years or so. Is there a different approach taken to convince people to go for the sedan? Thank you, Sandeep, by the way.
Sandeep, good question. Now, the thing is that there's truth in your statement that SUVs are the flavor of the season and sedan markets have gone down. They have not become zero yet, by the way. There is still a sizable number of people who love sedans. What has also happened, on the other hand, is over the past few years, I suspect even OEMs and brands lost interest in making good sedans. There have not been any good sedan launches. Whereas we, as a brand, have always been excellent at sedans. We have a rich heritage from the Octavia to the Superb to the Rapid. And globally also, in Europe also, we are sedan champions. The Slavia is being launched to fill that gap in that whole portfolio, in that segment where there's nothing interesting happening. A good car being launched can revive the segment because there are lots of sedan lovers who end up buying an SUV in absence of a good sedan. And we sincerely hope that the Slavia will fill that gap in the market.
Very good. Now, this is the question from Dev Kivsare, and his question is, India has a large market of customers buying pre-owned cars. Do you extend the customer experience to those owners, thereby increasing customer satisfaction and venture into that segment? Thank you, Dev. Very interesting question.
Dev, this was part of my notes, but I chose not to speak about it because I saw time running out. This was actually my last point. We have started a pre-owned program, a used car program in-house. It is called SKODA Certified Pre-Owned because it's also a part of the customer experience that when you buy a car from me and if you want to come back after 4 or 5 years, then I as a brand should be ready to trade in a car for you. So keeping that in mind, now because we have more volume cars and because we have more partners, we have entered this business. So you can buy a car and come back after 4, 5, 6 years. We will take your old Skoda back, completely refurbish it, and you can buy a certified pre-owned car from us. And as of today, even if you own any other brand and you're interested in a Skoda, my dealership would help you get rid of your old car and give you an excellent, price for your used car. So again, that is part of the whole cycle of customer experience that, it's a one-stop solution that you're looking for, and we are providing that to you.
Okay, so, there's a telepathy, I believe. This is a question from Rajnish Goyal, and his question is, Skoda has one of the best and most robust cars. The positioning in India, unlike Europe, is aspirational and a top-down approach. Doesn't this positioning restrict Skoda to look at a smaller segment of the market compared to Maruti, Hyundai, Kia, and now Tata Group as 90% of the sales of personal vehicle market when it comes from them?
So you're right. See, we've already started moving in the volume segment with our 2 new offerings, Kushaq and Slavia. When you compare us to a Maruti or a Hyundai, their entire portfolio, more than 70% of the cars that they sell, or more than 70% of the cars sold in India are below 10 lakh rupees. Okay, that is one segment where if you see our global portfolio, we don't exist. We don't sell cars in that segment, which is 10,000 euro segment. That is not our expertise. That is not our focus area, to be honest. Okay, we will focus on areas on cars that we can produce and sell in good quality. Another thing which you should realize is that we put a lot of emphasis on the quality of our products. And when you make quality products, you can't make them cheap. So you can't make, robust, safe, cars with airbags and all the active and passive safety, features and sell it less than 10 lakh rupees. It's not, technically feasible to do that. So we have our niche, we have our global portfolio, we have a certain global portfolio strategy for the group, and we will play within that and offer customers lovely cars like Kushak and the Slavia. When it comes to cars smaller than that, as of now, there is no immediate plan. As of now, in the future, who knows? When the business evolves, we might have cars even smaller than that. Yes, I don't rule it out. It may happen.
Thank you so much, Tarun. I think with your permission, I'll just take two more questions. I think we have already overshot the time by almost about 50 minutes, but nevertheless, with your permission, I'll take two more questions.
Yes.
Now, this is a question from Sumit Gaur, and his question is, what could have saved the erstwhile leaders of the industry, especially General Motors, Fiat, and Ford, mainly in India? Can we say that they had corporate myopia? Thank you, Sumit.
It's very easy to accuse. No, it is very easy to accuse, companies which exit India because you believe the people who are running them are stupid. That's not the case, actually. I mentioned product portfolio. That is the most important and key deciding factor for success in the country, for existence in the country. We've also suffered. We had a very limited portfolio of cars. All brands cannot. And it takes millions and millions of euros in development cost to come up with products which are suited for India, because India is a very unique market. Where I think General Motors, Ford, and Fiat, all three brands which have recently existed, it is very difficult to get the product strategy right for India in terms of the right design, the right features, the right price, the right ownership experience. And if you do not have the right products in your portfolio automatically, it's quite an uphill challenge. And that is what happened with these three brands. Globally, they are giants. We know that. Globally, they are giants. They're doing a good job in most of the countries. But in India, because you are constrained by your global product portfolio in development, and you can't develop standalone products for a particular market, it's very difficult, by the way. That is the reason why brands like these, the ones you mentioned, could not succeed despite, brave attempts at doing that. And it was not corporate myopia. It was actually, let's say, a corporate challenge for them, for those managers to pull a rabbit out of the hat. It's not always possible when you don't have the right portfolio globally.
The last question for today evening is from Sudeep Sen Sarma, and his question is, was there any instance where a customer nightmare experience is converted into a delighted customer experience, and how? Very interesting, Sudeep.
Professor, if you could repeat that, how we changed...
was there any instance where a customer nightmare experience was converted into delighted customer experience, and how?
Yes, it happened. So we had a customer who had recently bought his car. It was a wedding gift. And on his very first trip itself, he had a problem because apparently he put in the wrong fuel in the car on a road trip. So he desperately called up my dealership. And luckily, my dealership was, very kind. And, this is a true example of customer focus. The dealership sent a spare car to the customer so that he could continue his journey, and a tow truck, exchanged his car and said, you take this car of ours, continue your honeymoon journey. We will take your car back and make it all right for you when you come back. So we saved somebody's honeymoon, which I think is one of the nicer examples of how we came to the rescue of our customers. Because, one thing is we can tell the customer that, you are not right because you put in the wrong fuel, your mistake. One is that attitude. The other is an attitude, okay, mistakes happen. Let us see what we can do to save your day and find a solution for you separately. The same thing can be handled in two different manners. And it's the handling of the customers, the communication, which possibly is the biggest tool in customer experience. That is what we are learning on our brand. And that is what we see in our daily, a nice, kind word to the customer and the right kind of communication can save the day, rather than all the tools and all the technology that we deploy. So on that note, I will thank all of you. And yes, Professor, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tarun. I think on that note, I think we would like to wish all you and your wonderful team. May the honeymoon of SKODA India continue for a long time, many more decades to come. And once again, thank you so much personally for having taken out your time, especially, I'm sure you must have had a very busy and very taxing day, especially after having, traveled from Goa. But, it was a great pleasure and honor for all of us and for all of the learners from all of our, collaborating institutions, to host you and then to get to hear about, wonderful experience. And sure, in that very unassuming way that you said it, all that Skoda has been doing in terms of enhancing the customer experience in India. But I'm sure behind that there's thoughtful insights that have come from markets and all your stakeholders, may they be from customers or the dealers or the product teams or the the global team. But I think it's a long journey, but nevertheless, from all of us, I'm sure, there must be in the audience some people who must be owners of Skoda for sure, or in their near and dear ones. But I know for sure that my first boss definitely wants continues to own not just one, but at least one plus two now. That's what it is. In fact, yesterday, no, we were talking to one of very seasoned, what do you call, ad veteran in the country, very, very seasoned. Let me not take her name out, and she's so happy with the Skoda, and she watches for that. In fact, we're going to host her, and maybe in the next 1 or 2 months. But thank you once again, Tarun, from all of us, and look forward to hosting you, and look forward to continue our association in the years to come.
So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, and thank all of you for your wonderful participation. And also, once again, we are extremely sorry that we couldn't take up all of the questions. But again, what we have done is we have tried to put together. We'll highlight one question that actually highlighted maybe 2-3 other questions which are talking about the same point. So that's how we could save time. But nevertheless, wonderful having all of you as always, and look forward to hosting you for one more session next week. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Tarun. Thank you so much. Thank you, TSW team. Thank you. Thanks.